Hi, welcome to Grat's Guide to Anything. This video is part of a series I'm doing on running D&D 5th edition on Roll20. This is the second in a group that covers setting up APIs to allow for GM and player menus to automate a lot of standard tasks. This video will cover specifically the setting up of a group of 3 menus for the GM. I'll apologise in advance because this video is going to get a bit technical. If you find yourself getting lost in the detail, don't worry so much as you can implement all of this without understanding everything that you're doing. But I've put in at least a minimum level of detail so that those of you who are interested will be able to follow along. I'll also remind everyone that I'll put a link under this video to a Google Drive that I'll be putting a transcript plus a copy of the code, etc. used in these videos. Note that this will be set up using D&D 5 by Roll20 character sheet template. If you intend to use a different template, then some of what I do will not work for you. You'll need to do your own research as to what changes you need to make. So, what's our learning objective for this video? By the end of this video, you'll be able to create a menu But, well, the first thing we need to do is to figure out what menus that we're going to create. The first menu will be one for us to use for each campaign to allow us to set up options for the overall campaign. The second menu will be one that we will regularly use to set up monsters, pages, characters, and etc. The third menu will be one we use all the time. This will be full of little odds and ends that will make our life as a games master easier. Now, we've installed 3 API scripts to make our life easier, but this video is going to concentrate on just the first one, and that's the 5th edition OGL by Roll20 Companion Script. What I'm going to do first is that I'm going to look at the actual introductory screen within the API configuration screens in the setup for the instance of the game. So you see in the video there's a bit of an introduction to the script, gives you a bit of information. Included in that is a summary of the major commands. So remember, an API or an API script at its core extends what we can do with Roll20. So in this case, this is the list of items or features that we can do because we've loaded the 5th edition OGL by Roll20 Compendium. So this gives us a list of commands that the API provides for our use. What we can do as GM is to type in any of these commands into chat in the game and it will do what it says. So we could, for example, select a monster on your game top and type !NPCHP. Press enter. This would roll this monster's hit points based upon the information in the monster's sheet and then change this individual monster's HP to this value. Of course, the problem there is there's a whole stack of configuration stuff which we haven't done yet, so it actually won't work, but shh, don't tell anyone yet. And also, how on earth we're going to remember all of these commands when we're in the middle of running a D&D campaign is another big problem which we're going to, again, deal with. What we now need to do is to separate these additional commands into which would be useful for each menu. So the first one, 5e help, well, that's not going to be useful at all. 5e status, well, that's going to be useful for the campaign configuration because we'll want to check the configuration of the whole game instance, and that's what this command does. Ammo tracking, well, this turns on the support for ammo tracking, so again, campaign configuration. Auto PC token, again, turns on this feature, so again, campaign configuration. Death save tracking. Again, it's a campaign configuration because it affects the whole game. Spell tracking, same deal. So everything down to this point has been will be in the first of the three menus, the one that deals with the campaign configuration. Long rest. Okay, that gives a character a long rest. Well, that's something which really we're going to have to do like on a daily basis. So that'll go in the daily GM menu. And the last one, NPC HP, will allow us to customize the individual instances of a monster. To give you an idea on this, say you have a band of 10 goblins. You can take the easy solution, and that is to duplicate the standard goblin, and it will give you an average hit points, and so all 6 of them will have the same hit points. Or you can use utilities like this, which will actually use the formula for that particular monster to generate hit points for each individual monster. Now that can be good because it means that that fireball that killed most of your goblins actually left 4 alive because they had extra health points. And also could be bad because it means that there could be a stack of them with nearly no health points at all. You know, someone sneezes and half of them die. But again, it's adding in a little bit of flavour to the campaign. So again, as DM, it depends on how you run it. Except for the amount of work involved, I prefer to do it this way. And utilities like this just make that whole job a bit easier once it's set up, and that's for a video a long way down the track. Right, now I'm sure you'll comment that 2 of the menus don't have many items, so why bother? And the answer is, we'll add more of them later. This is just the first of 3 API scripts that we've loaded at this point, and there's actually a fairly long list of other ones we'll add as well. Each one will add additional options and flavors and automation tasks which we can choose to use in our campaign. Right, put on your propeller head hats. We're about to make ourselves some menus. So the first one, the campaign configuration. So what we need to do is we need to design what the menu will look like. Remember to make everything narrow because it's got to fit in the chat area, which is that little tiny strip down the right hand side. While we'll come across some settings that allow us to toggle settings, these ones can only be set to on, off or quiet. Quiet keeps the option running but doesn't display all the messages to the players and stuff. Our basic menu structure will look like this. Here's a mock-up of it, and as you can see, we've got a title, and then we've got a button to show the config. Then we've got ammo tracking, and we can turn it on, off or quiet. Auto NPC token just has on and off. Death saves also has the on, off, quiet, and spell tracking is the same. Right, so they're the items, and that's the order that we're going to put them into our menu, and we've roughed that up so we know where things go. A note, I could have added enough text in to sink the Titanic, but I've kept it brief. If you want to pad it out more, then please do so. Again, it's your choice. One side is remembering what on earth this option does. You know, 12 months down the track you think, oh no, what on earth is a death save? What does that do? Can't remember. Why has it got quiet? Can't remember. So you could pad it out. The other option, the problem when you pad it out though is it's starting to take up more real estate, more space. And as you use these, you really find out that your little chat window on the right gets used up really quickly. Next note, the formatting options in Whisper aren't good. There's a stack of other options you can create, edit, change to fix all of this. But again, most of the fixes only fix it for you, not your players. So read the options carefully before you implement them. What looks like a great, so there's links, for example, to change style sheets and all sorts of stuff, until you realize that all these things make it look really nice for you, but doesn't do anything for your players. And so you're saying, what, can't you see? And they're saying, no. So there's a problem unless you're also going to instruct all your players as well to do the same sets of changes as you. Note number 3. How this will look is also dependent on how wide the chat area is on your screen. May end up making it a little wider than normal just to make everything look better, or you might just leave it alone. We want to whisper the results only to the GM, and we want to use the default template. We then wish to display a title for the menu, campaign config, then put the items we want the person to be able to click on and what is to happen when they click on it. So that's our aims. So the actual code, and you can see the code there on your screen, /w, whisper, GM, who you're whispering to, and squiggly bracket template :default close squiggly bracket. That has to do with the template which we use to display it. Squiggly bracket. They're there so that everything until you get the last final 2 squiggly brackets is all whispered. If you didn't have them then every line basically is a new command, and so it may or may not whisper. So you might suddenly find that half the stuff is being displayed to your players, and yeah, messy. So the double squiggly bracket is there to start the area of the text that's going to be displayed on the screen, and it's to keep it all together. So the next line, title :campaign config, is there just because it's going to display that. 5e companion, again, that's going to be displayed. Then we have the square bracket, show config close square bracket. This is going to be the text that's going to be highlighted on the screen, the link, if you want to put it that way. Then you've got the open round bracket, and then you have the command that you want to run. In this case, !5e status, close round bracket. So if I click on show config, it'll run in chat !5e status. If you want to see what that does, just run it in chat, it'll work. Next line, ammo tracking, and again it's just displaying this text. Next line, open square brackets, on, close square brackets. This is the text that's displayed. And next to it, in round brackets, is the command that'll be run if you click on it. And a space and a vertical bar just makes it look nice. And then open square brackets, off, close square brackets, again, text to be displayed. Next to it in the round brackets is the command to run, and the same thing for quiet. The next line, auto NPC token, gets just displayed, and so on, all the way down until in the end we put in the double squiggly brackets, and that indicates the end of this command. Right, now how do I actually enter all of this into Roll20? Glad you asked. If you remember from last episode, we created 2 NPCs to hold stuff for us so we can move between campaigns. Well, that's where we're going to put this. I'm going to create an ability in GM Utils OGL, was the name of the NPC, and put this code into the ability. So in the end we'll create 3 new abilities, 1 for each of the menus. The good thing about putting all of this into our own NPC is that we can easily call one macro from another as long as they're on the same user. Slightly more complex if they're in different NPCs, but that's for a later session. So I'm going to start Roll20 and then going to launch our test game. Now I'm going to find in the journal our GM Utils OGL user, and click on it. Now change to the Attributes and Abilities tab and click on the little plus add next to Abilities. I'm giving it the name Campaign Config, and then I'm going to paste the code into the box below and click on the little tick to save it. Notice there is no spaces in the name. You cannot have spaces in the names of macros. If you want to break it up, you can use underscores or dashes. Sorry, I can't remember which it is now. I think it's a dash. Once we've done that, to test it works, we'll just click on the button with the Roll20 symbol on it, and that'll run that macro for us. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the item configuration menu. This menu will currently only have one item in it, the item to roll individual hit points for the currently selected token. So the title for this menu, and remember the first thing we do is we mock up a copy of it. The title will be item config for the selected tokens, and then one item we've got roll hit points. So the code for this, it's got to be following that same pattern from before. /w for whisper, gm, and squiggly bracket template :default close squiggly bracket, and then two more squiggly brackets to start our section we want to display. And then the couple of lines there we should display on the screen. We title item config for selected token, and then the item we want the player to be able to click on, open square brackets, roll hit points, close square brackets, and then inside round brackets will be the command we want to run, !NPC HP. And then we close the double squiggly brackets, and that's it. And that's as simple as we need to do to create a menu with only one item in it, but still creating a menu. So once again, I click on the little plus add next to abilities. I'm going to give it the name item config. Again, notice no space. And they're going to paste the code into the box below and click on the little tick to save it. To test it's okay, we'll click on the button with the Roll20 symbol on it, and yep, it doesn't work. It isn't because we made a mistake, it's because we haven't set everything up that we need to yet. Don't worry, we'll get to it in some later video. And lastly, there's the third menu, Daily GM Tasks. This time I'm going to add to the bottom of this menu links to the first and second menus. So instead of having to remember the commands to run all the three menus, I only ever have to be able to run this third menu, the one I use the most, and down the bottom of it are going to be two links to the other two menus. This way I can keep everything uncluttered. To call another macro, you need to use the tilde symbol. It becomes more complex if the macro you're calling is in another character sheet, as I said above. Then you have to specify the name of the character sheet as well. Something like tilde my name, broken vertical bar, my macro. By the way, I'm putting in the code for long rest, but again, it actually won't work. There's a number of ways you can fudge it, but I'm just going to leave it at this as a placeholder. Later on in the series, we'll revisit rests and deal with it properly. And again, we do the mock-up of this third menu. It looks the same as the second one mainly, except we've got down the bottom the added two items which are the links to the other two menus. The code basically the same with that added bit down the bottom to get those links to the other macros. And so once again I click on the little plus add next to abilities, give it the name Daily GM, no spaces again. Then I'm going to paste the code into the box below, click on the little tick to save it. Test it works, I can click on the button with the Roll20 symbol on it, and now you'll find you can call up the other two menus from this menu. Simple. Well done.